I'm here with Randy Feltes and Katherine Feltes, and they are the social media creators and content creators, really, because you guys have lots of assets outside of social,
Mhm.
of Katherine Wants. And your latest initiative is a cookbook. You've got
Yeah.
restaurants, you've got cookbooks, you've got kids, you've got a marriage, you've got a dating situation. Get
Uh,
our listeners caught up to like how you guys started because your story resonated with me so much because it was kind of like my story. My husband was a manager of a nightclub. I was a cocktail waitress and
oh,
we met when I
oh,
was 19 and we've been married
oh,
30 years.
wow. Okay, so super similar stories.
Restaurant people, right? Like we like to stay together, and I think it's the love of food that actually keeps us together. And you just don't find those type of people outside of the business. So, Catherine, do you want to tell how we got to how we met?
Yeah. So Brandy was the chef and owner of Oscars, which, people still talk about Oscars in our town to this day. But anyways, it was a fine dining restaurant in Barrie, and I had a big crush on him, and we finally, started this relationship, and I was young and dumb, and I went on this trip with my ex-boyfriend. Anyways, it's a long story,
She
but
messed it up.
I messed it up. I messed it up and we broke up. And then, there was a big period of time, like 15 years, 15,
13 years.
13 years in between. Anyways, I got married to somebody and Randy got married to somebody. And then we both found ourselves divorced at the same time, living down the street from each other. And well, I found us actually both divorced because I immediately was like, I have to jump in his DMs and like make this happen because I just knew we were meant to be all those years. And here we are.
Do you think that if you would have stayed together the first time around, that
Oh,
you would have made it? Because sometimes, like my husband, I didn't meet him till he was 29. If I'd have met him when he was 19, I'd have been like, no way, you're a loser.
Listen, I'd like to think that we would. I'd like to think maybe that we wouldn't because I want to believe that everything happens for a reason, of course. But being together now, sometimes when I think about it too much, it makes me really sad that we
Yeah.
didn't get all those years because we have so much fun together. And, we were only together kind of a short period of time before we decided that we were going to procreate because we were both getting
see,
older.
and listen, I'm a different. I think that everything happens for a reason, and now I can hold it over Catherine's head that she messed it up the first time around, and I kind of get a jail free card, and we would never trade the happiness we have now, and so you really can't play that game of if we went back.
Yeah.
And you guys, you got together then and you had a kid, and then you right away kind of have had another kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
How is going from a family of two to three to four in a somewhat short period of time?
Well, I have a son as well from my
Okay.
first marriage. So Catherine was like a part-time, a stepmom. And then, like, when we first got together, Catherine was like, oh, I guess, how old were you?
36.
36. And Catherine's like, oh, I'm not interested in kids. And I was like, I don't believe that for a second. And I wanted more kids. So then it was only about a month later, Catherine's like, would you consider? I was like, absolutely. So we got right into it. And and out came Libby. And so, yeah, the family has grown quickly, and we're really feeling it this time around with Romy because it just gets more full, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of juggling going on.
Yeah. And you guys, so you are active restaurateurs and you also have this social media presence with TikTok and Instagram that really blossomed through the COVID times. And now you've taken some of that content, the recipes that you developed, and put it into this book that is real cute. It's called The Ultimate Date Night Cookbook. And it is a cookbook and a great cookbook with lots of great photos and good recipes, but there's also this element of having the dating tips and the how to keep the romance spark alive and some of those fun elements that you don't usually see in a cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
But we really didn't want to write a traditional cookbook in that sense. Like, I don't think anyone needs to learn how to make a chicken stock. And if you do, you probably have 10 cookbooks that all have a chicken stock recipe in it. So we just skipped right over that part and went right to the goods, like the all-star stuff from Catherine Watts. And then we're like, this is basically just a page in our life. And when we wake up in the morning, the first thing we talk about is what we're going to have for dinner or where we're going for lunch. And so it's always based around food.
Mhm.
So when we started stripping it down and putting the chapters together, they wrote themselves. It's like, okay, break the ice is the first, it's a cocktail one. And then it's the first date, right? And then it's the morning after the first date.
You have
Yeah.
a lot of morning after breakfast recipes. It made me wonder how many morning afters you had.
You know what, the for me the cookbook is, I mean, Randy's a chef, so it was really fun for him to, finally be able to realize that sort of part of his career. But for me, the cookbook is more like something for couples or just people, friends, family to do. Like rather than saying, "Oh, I better get the cookbook because I want to make this," it's like, I'm going to get the cookbook out because we're going to have a date, right? Like it's something that brings two people together. Or, in certain chapters, what would you make when you're meeting the parents, or for bigger groups of people. So it's kind of like a fun, like, I feel like we should sell it at like where they sell board games.
That's
They
funny.
should. They should definitely do that.
They
Not a
should.
bad idea, actually. What I did, as someone who's written a lot of recipes myself, I was surprised, Randy, because when I first got the book and I read the story and I was like, oh, a chef. Sometimes chef cookbooks are too chefy and too hard for the home cooks, and I felt like yours is very accessible.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much for bringing that up, Stephanie. I also did a lot of daytime TV over the last 15 years. So we have a very popular show here called City Line, and I was on there for 15 years, just as like a kind of a, what do they call us? Expert. I
Guest
was a
expert.
guest expert. That's right. And I really learned that if you want to resonate with the general public, you kind of have to simplify things and get away from the chefy stuff. The simple things go and they work. Nobody wants a cookbook that they're just going to look at the pictures and go, I'm never going to make that. There's too much steps and it takes too long.
Mhm.
You want things that you can actually achieve. And so all of the recipes in the book, we bought the groceries at the grocery store. We didn't use the restaurants, right? And then we executed them at home and we shot them ourselves and styled it ourselves so it's attainable and it's achievable. And the whole point is that, if somebody is having a hard time dating and they grab our book, the hard part shouldn't be cooking for the date. It should be the date itself,
Yeah. And
right?
and I thought the way that the recipes were organized was cute, but also like you had all the prep in there. Did you guys shoot the book or did you have someone shoot it for you? Because it felt personal.
This is a really, really fun part of our story. So, I mentioned that I was married before, and my ex-husband is way better at photography than he is at being a husband.
Yep.
So we hired him, and you know what? It was Randy, myself, and Hansa, my ex-husband, who's from the Czech Republic. It was the three of us in the kitchen, and I was cleaning up after them. It was just like good old times, you know?
That's hilarious. I love it. I love it so much. But that also shows, I think, a certain maturity about your relationship too, like
Mhm.
security and not having to be all like weirded out about that stuff. When you talk about like during COVID that the social media kind of blew up, how did you know you had something? Like, do you remember that first video where you were like, oh, this is something?
Well, it was just sort of like a buildup. Like, people kept asking, can you share the recipe for that? And then we did that one video of me eating king crab and just using a fork, and people went crazy. And it was like, okay, well, maybe this is a thing.
It's like we found our people, It's like all of a sudden we have this whole audience that loves food as much as we do and is actually interested in what we're cooking and what we're talking about. And then we had the other recipe, the one pan potatoes,
Mm.
which is the simplest recipe in the world. You just simmer the potatoes in water and evaporate them until they get crispy. And it went bonkers, right? And it's that kind of idea, the same as the recipes in the cookbook that make it simple. It's like if you can achieve it, then they're going to share it. because they're going to share that along the way. And then we're like, this is so much fun. Just one little kitchen hack can get like millions of views.
Mhm.
Has it ever felt overwhelming like that this whole voyeuristic piece is like, because sometimes I think like we share so much as creators, and then like what do you keep for yourself?
Yes, but I don't know if maybe it would feel different if we didn't have little kids. Not because I'm not, and I respect the people who don't want to show their children. I'm not very like big on it. I don't hide them though, but it's just overwhelming sometimes, maybe more than anything. It's just finding the time to share. And it definitely seemed way easier
Without children.
without children. Yeah.
Yeah, and even just like I think the algorithms are changing in that they're favoring content that's less produced.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
so, like you're working on this thing and you're going to put this thing out there and it's going to look a certain way and feel a certain way. And then, like, some other random thing that you put up is the thing that goes viral that you
Mhm.
Yeah.
weren't even planning on. Or
Right.
so all of that is changing. And the mediums are so different. I think what gets seen on TikTok is very different than what Instagram favors.
Agreed.
Mhm.
And we've really tried hard to figure it out, and we don't have a clue.
Me neither.
And
And
that's
no one
kind of
else
the
does
beauty
either.
of it. And I think what you have to do is sit back and kind of enjoy that and just go, we're just going to do what we want and try our best. And if it works, that's great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. Because a lot of times you get tied up in it. And I have a saying that I like to use. I'm like, you can't let the tail wag the dog, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just try to enjoy ourselves and
Yeah.
find time for it.
It's way too hard to try to be something you're not.
And you
Right?
also have these other restaurants. Like, let's just
Yeah.
talk about the life of a restaurateur and hospitalitarians. It is
Yes.
already a challenging life, and then you're adding like this whole other component on top of it. Do you feel like you just work all the time?
Yeah.
I'm on my phone way too much. I don't necessarily work at the restaurants anymore. I'm at the restaurant, but I don't do shifts.
Yep.
So I manage the managers, I manage the chefs, but I try to hire really good people that I can kind of walk away from for a few days. And that's worked out really, really well.
Mhm.
But there's still the phone calls of, oh, the restaurant's on fire,
Yeah,
or
and they
oh, the
still
head
need
chef didn't show
managing.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't talk about this often, but I am a realtor and I have been for 18 years. Kind of forgot about that though, because this got us so busy and it just really didn't make sense to go out and, grind it out like I was, because this let me be at home more with the kids and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think your recipes will change because cooking for a family is different? And in some ways, that might be an exciting evolution of your story.
Well, our 3.5-year-old really needs to get with the program when it comes to her palate. So I don't think I don't know that I can see that happening yet.
Until you start having to like sneak vegetables into her.
We're way too adventurous and we're not willing to compromise.
And I kind of like keeping it from them. I'm not going to share my caviar.
Oh, that's funny. So, do you think you'll be one of those families that has three separate meals, or will you make the one meal and like, here it is, kids, and if you don't want to eat it, you don't have to eat it?
We're already one of those families. Yeah. With between a 13-year-old and the 3.5-year-old,
Yeah.
we're kind of just but we're grazers too. Like our 3.5-year-old just eats like a mini child's charcuterie for dinner.
Yeah,
And
she's
Yep.
girl dinner night.
she's girl dinner
And,
every night.
and there's certain meals that we can, like if we're doing like steak, the 13-year-old is the happiest kid around. He likes salmon, right? And but then it's like, oh, okay, what is that one gonna do? Yeah, there's a lot of food getting
There's a
cooked
lot.
every day. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. And I can see it. I mean, I'm a mom too. My kid's older, but you spend so much time worrying about like, are they getting enough of this? Are they getting enough of that? How do you feel about social media? This is a kind of random question, but we're in this area where, I think people are starting to put guardrails up for kids more with social media.
Mhm.
And your whole like platform kind of is this thing that is the social media. Do you feel like, I wonder if your 3.5-year-old will even be on social media till at least 16 years old. I kind of feel like we're getting to the point where people are just going to say no.
It's pretty easy with the 13-year-old, and because last few years he doesn't want to be on.
Mhm.
He's like, "Don't put me on." If I take a video, he's like, "Don't you put that up."
Yep.
Like, okay, man, cool.
Yep.
That's easy, and it's probably easier than if he was asking to do it, because then I'd feel like I'm working for him. So that's that. But I don't know. I think like my personal feeling on it is just respect their boundaries, and we don't shove it. We don't make them do anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
Sure you don't. Yeah, I'm sure you
Yeah.
don't. I mean more like the idea of society's expectations. And
Mm.
Oh.
I really feel like we're getting to this place where people are gonna just not have kids under 16 have access to social media. I feel like we're gonna go back to the flip phone for communication
Oh.
purposes, potentially text, and then that's it. It just seems to be that there's a lot of trends that way. So we'll see how that
Mhm.
all unfolds.
He doesn't seem to be interested. And I thought that Facebook was for the sort of like older generation. Apparently, Instagram is. Like, he doesn't even know what Facebook is.
He doesn't know
Yeah.
what Instagram. He doesn't know what Facebook is.
He's like, what?
He doesn't know. Yeah, he doesn't have an Instagram account. Yeah.
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 But the funny thing is, his classmates have found us on TikTok, and they watch us on TikTok,
Mhm.
and so we're kind of the cool parents. Which,
Okay. I
without,
like it.
yeah, right. It has its benefits.
Now, here's a weird thing that just happened to me like in the last 2 days. So I'll tell you about it. I got a new phone and I updated my phone and, I'm an Apple user. So the new
Yeah,
Apple phone, my TikTok, my CapCut, my Lemonade, all those apps that are owned by ByteDance will not load on my new phone
really.
because they're not available in the App Store in the United States.
Whoa.
Oh.
So I know that like everyone's like, oh, we're on this reprieve, but I cannot get them on my new phone. So I have to keep my old phone activated in the cloud so that I can use those apps. It's kind of crazy. And it never
Yeah.
occurred to me until I was like, why can't I get this to work? So I think that's pretty interesting as we move forward as people upgrade their
Mhm.
phone. So don't upgrade your phone because
I
then you
won't
won't
have.
be able to use it.
Well, we're in Canada, so I don't think that that ban actually happened. But maybe with the cap cut, it's who knows.
I don't
I'm
know.
not good with technology, so I just keep the same phone until it dies.
Well, and I'm in Minnesota, so maybe I'll just like try and walk across the border
There you go.
Yeah.
Let us
and
know
get
how
it to
works.
work. Where in Canada are you guys? Where do you hail from?
Just north of Toronto.
Okay. Canada's
Mhm.
like well, Canada's huge, but Vancouver is probably one of my favorite cities in the world, and I have family
Oh,
in
Beautiful city.
Quebec
Yeah.
yeah.
and Montreal actually too.
Oh,
My
we
niece
love
went to
We
McGill.
love
Montreal.
Montreal.
The food scene is outrageous.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're like in Europe, you know what I mean? If you come from
Mhm.
the United States, it feels so different than just being in Canada, as it were.
Yeah.
When you look at other like people that you admire, either content creators or cookbook authors, are there people that are like, oh yeah, they're my person?
Hmm.
Um, we have followed so many content creators, and I love them all for their own little thing,
Yeah.
right? Like Max the meat guy, and then there was Thomas the butter guy, and then he got away from the butter. But I love his food. He's English, and it's just straightforward and simple. And I like some of the more complicated stuff, like the Michelin star stuff, even though I don't want to cook like that anymore.
Mhm.
So I just love the aspect that you can find anything you want and
Yeah.
kind of dive deeper into that, right? And there's just an endless outlet now of like inspiration and ideas. Where when I started cooking, we had to buy cookbooks.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I bought Charlie Trotter's very first cookbook, right? I bought Marco Pierre White's White Heat cookbook, and that's how we were like, look at these photos. This is crazy. You couldn't
Yeah.
get that anywhere else. And now
I
you just
was
have to turn
thinking
your phone
about
on.
that. Yeah, the other day, like that was how we taught ourselves to cook. And then the Food Network kind of came on, and that was
Yeah.
pretty revolutionary. And we only had, I don't know, maybe 5 years before it started to go to like the competition route.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I gravitated towards Food Network Canada because Chuck Hughes and there were
Yeah.
so really good chefs there.
Hmm.
And now it's kind of all competition cooking, but we're getting back to new channels that are going back to the cooking again. We're seeing more Jamie Oliver, and
Hmm.
from Ottolenghi has a show that I was just watching the other day. We're getting back to that. So it's fun to think about how much the food world has changed really in 15 years.
Hmm.
The Food Network did break it wide open, and it
Yeah.
Yeah.
made it popular, and it made it fun, and it made it cool, and it gave the consumer, and I'm saying consumer, I mean in restaurants, it gave them like another level of almost intelligence as far as what was going on, because a lot of times you would write a menu and most of the people in the dining room wouldn't know what the big words were.
Yeah.
And now they get it. They know what duck confit is. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, this is awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah. And they want foie gras on their burger.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah. The
Don't
world's
you
a better
all?
place. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a way better place.
All right. Well, the social media channels are Catherine Wants. The cookbook itself is Catherine Wants, Randy Cooks. It's Randy Feltes, Catherine Feltes. I'll put notes in the show comments about how people can order your book. I'll attach your social channels. Your love story is pretty cute. I love it.
Thank you.
It's fun to talk to you right before Valentine's Day. Will you have any special Valentine's Day plans?
Oh, we're going to
Oh yeah,
Mexico.
we're called vacation.
Yes.
Where in Mexico do you go?
This time we're going to a place called Playa Mujeres.
Yes.
And we're going to a resort called The Finest. We're very excited about that. Randy's a hotel snob, so I like traveling with him.
And I'm not that. I don't really like the all inclusives, but Mexico I do love because it's tacos and tequila. It's hard to like. I just it's fundamentals, right? But with the girls, like all inclusives count. With the 3.5-year-old, our Livy is just off the walls. So it works.
Well, if you're anything like me, they have these kids clubs and we would make our kid go to the kids club.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we made her. We were like, nope, this is part of the trip. You have to go. Mom and dad need 4 hours without you every day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's
Um,
going to the kids club.
yeah, we loved those all-inclusives for that. And
Hmm.
I'm going to Mexico too. So I was like, oh, that's funny. We'll be there at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
Um, and everyone from Canada goes to Mexico. It's like,
Oh, good.
yeah,
Oh,
Baby's crying.
you've got a baby that woke up, so we'll wrap it up. But it was nice to talk to you guys. Good luck with the book.
Thank you so much.
People can get it in the show notes here or at your favorite bookstores, and I'll launch all of the socials. And it's just been great to talk to you. Good luck.
Stephanie, it was great talking with you. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
thanks,
Have a
Randy.
wonderful
And
day. Appreciate
thank you, Catherine, too, for me.
I will. She's back.
Okay. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.